Well, happy Monday, and welcome to the Greyscalegorilla podcast. I'm here today with Chris Schmidt. How are you,
Hi
sir?
there, everybody. What's going on?
Happy Monday to you, and also happy Monday to you, Chad. Ashley, how have you been?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm feeling it. It's on my second coffee, and I might be talking fast today, but you let me know. You slow me down.
We'll keep you in check. Don't worry.
How you feeling?
I'm good, man. So what your coffee situation? Are you still doing the Starbucks, or are you there was that other place for a while?
A lot of people have been asking. If you follow me on Twitter, there's a coffee place that opened up across the road from my office, and I was really excited about it. And they had a cool name, they had a cool logo, a nice font, the whole deal. I was really excited, and I literally have not had a good coffee from there yet. And every time they announce something new, they have this new, cold brew like flavor, or they have this nitro cold brew tap. Everything, they're speaking my language every time, and I get fooled every time when I go in there. I literally think there's either something wrong with the water, because you get the wrong water.
You're on Michigan. How close are you to Flint? That's the question.
Hey! Michigan is amazing. We're surrounded by fresh water.
No, I love Michigan.
Flint, not so good. But this place, they either have some really bad water, or they just have the worst taste, because nobody else seems to care. Everybody else goes in, gets a coffee, walks out happy, walking their dog. And if I'm the only one, I won't be the complainer. I'm just gonna kind of be sad and go back to Starbucks, I guess.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, they just have a designer, like whoever started the coffee shop. They wanted to put their designs out there, but they don't know anything about coffee. So they got all these cool names. Yeah,
you got you got an image problem. You got somebody with good taste in terms of design and marketing. It's not matching the product.
But again, it could be me. I got to get more data points, because so far, me and my office mate, we try it. We try them all the time. Now, their hot coffee, not bad. I think they know how to make some espresso. But you get them in the cold coffee, and it tastes like like a used let's go with baseball glove.
Ooh,
it's bad. It's bad. Anyway, more updates, of course. The Coffee Wars update, we'll keep you up to date with that one. As we go forward. What about Render Wars updates?
Dude, big day in the Render Wars. So Sakani Solomon, who is a contributing editor or a contributor over at Motionographer,
a new contributor,
brand new contributor. He's a friend of ours. We've known him for a while. He's a great Cinema 4D artist. He, along with Joe Donaldson over Motionographer, reached out to me to answer some questions about the state of rendering in Cinema 4D. So I kind of went crazy and wrote a ridiculously long piece with him. Kind of a state of the union of where we are and where things are headed in terms of rendering with Cinema 4D.
I'm still scrolling with this article.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. So be sure you have some time, and I think you should go all the way. Don't skimp out. If you need a couple days to finish it, that's okay. I'm not gonna be sad. Finish the article and then head over to our site, because we got an article that's linked in that article actually, and we kind of have more of a, I guess, a condensed version of it there. But I give you kind of the cliff notes a little bit on our site of it, but then there's also this really fun little quiz that you can take at the bottom of the page that is not scientific and is just a silly quiz to, I don't know, hopefully steer you in the right direction in terms of rendering. You may remember that quiz. I put it together a while back, but I updated it and made it a little bit more, it opened it up to cycles. I tweaked a few things so that you could actually get physical. If you answered the questions in a specific way, you could possibly get physical, which wasn't a possibility before. So yeah, check out the article. Check it out, man. Render Wars in full effect. Trying to think of actual news on that front. Besides these articles, which have the most data that I had at the time, but this shit changes every week. So
that's why we update every week.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the idea for our post, at least, is to keep that updated. Is that right, Chad?
Yeah, I think I'd like to keep just tacking stuff on to that post as things come out and change and get updated, and it could be a good place for people to go and see what's happening without needing to know the exact websites or being subscribed to a news feed or whatever, they can go there and like figure out, oh, look, they updated this, they added that. So it's kind of on me to keep that up to date, and I'm going to try to do that for you guys, and I think it'll be a good resource for everybody. But I've already had a few people reach out to me about the article saying they really enjoyed it. It's kind of reaffirming things that they already sort of knew. But yeah, Redshift is a lot of buzz about Redshift on the SIGGRAPH floor, and then the buzz about Redshift continues as I've been hearing some pretty big studios are dropping Octane and moving towards Redshift as their GPU renderer of choice. Now, there's still a ton of studios out there that either are still on Mac or they have a completely CPU-based pipeline, CPU-based render farm, whatnot, that they can't make the change to GPU. They're looking at Redshift very closely in hopes that maybe will go to GPU. And for the CPU people, I kind of push them more towards the Arnold direction because of the awesome features and just really deep feature set, amazing developers. So there's kind of two paths right now that I'm seeing sort of emerge from the murkiness. But yeah, so a lot of exciting things, man. Go check it out, read the article, go to our site, take the quiz. We've had a lot of people take this quiz. It's actually almost up to like 7,000 people now.
What?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let us know your results too on Twitter. You could share with me or with the company too on Twitter. We'd love to see what you guys get. And yeah, that's the idea behind this article is, Chad's becoming somebody that gets asked this question all the time. Which render should I use? Should I go here? Should I go there? And like so many things, there's no perfect answer. There's no one right answer right now. So this article is hopefully a way for you to take where you are in your career and your budget and what you have available now and kind of look at the play field and pick where to go intelligently. So, and we'll keep this up to date every time there's a new big feature shift or something big happens or a new render pops up. We'll try to keep that article as up to date as possible. And we'll also have this in the show notes as well if you want to link to any of these, to the Motionographer one.
Yeah, we'll link to both of them probably so that you guys can check them out. Oh, yeah.
Chris, anything going on this week we should know about?
Nothing crazy on my end. Really, it is half-res time. Half-res. We are getting all the details put together, getting it planned, really lining up the last bits, figuring out like t-shirt ideas and just getting them all in. What's funny, it's funny, but it's also a little sad, and I'm not exactly sure what to do, is we had a local meetup in Chicago last week, and there's a couple people who are like, oh yeah, I got to go grab my tickets. It's like, tickets sold out like 3 months ago. Like we've been locked out for a while. Not only that, we have over 100 people on the waiting list. So like, even if you jump on the waiting list, it's a long list. And this is the first year that we charged a little bit of money, not too much, but that as soon as somebody takes out their credit card and buys a ticket, I think it just becomes automatically so much more likely that they will actually show up. Or if you say, hey, free tickets for everybody, everybody's like, oh, I'll grab some tickets. I'll grab some extra ones for my buddies. And then they don't show up. So you always have like a significant fall off from the big final number to who actually shows up. But I don't think that will be as much of a case this year. So we're going to be squeezing in. So the rough plan is hopefully next year find an even bigger venue.
Oh, yeah. Chris actually reminded me too of something else that happened. We'll have some more news about this pretty soon. But on our Twitch channel, we finally got our Twitch name, Greyscalegorilla, back. And some friends of ours at Twitch actually helped us get that going. I want to thank you guys so much, the whole team over there. We met them over at NAB, I think it was.
Yeah.
And
that was really fun.
And huge thanks to you guys for doing that, getting that going. And we'll have more news and we'll have more announcements about the live shows soon. We're going to get that ramped up as summer dies down. We got back to school going on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
it's happening. But some more news about that. Big thanks to Twitch for unlocking our Greyscalegorilla name. I know
which was locked away for years.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. So stay tuned for that. If you guys are already subscribed over there, just be aware if you go to the old Twitch name and it says, yo, this doesn't exist. It does exist, and it's over at Greyscalegorilla now. But we'll be louder about that as we get some live shows scheduled. I know that Chris and Chad and I all have some ideas for some live shows coming soon. So don't forget. And hey, quick question for you guys. Consistent live shows. What days of the week / times are good for everybody? Now here's the only question I want to add on top of that is it can't be 7 at night because we also can't work. Like that's also when we're home and we have time like with our family. So during the day, when is good to open up Twitch and maybe learn something about one of the new renderers from Chad, or learn some espresso from Chris, or learn about, some of the new lighting stuff in Cinema 4D from me, or whatever. What time of the day is good for you guys if we started to do more live shows? I'm kind of interested in.
I've always wondered that too. Like, how do people pick their time slots? Is it just random, or is it
that's a very good question. Especially just, first of all, you could limit it to just like, North America, and even that you've got like a 4-hour window of variation, right? So that you aim for like the middle of our day, which is sometimes like just before lunch for somebody, and other people it's like, hey, I'm leaving work in an hour,
right?
So
yeah, and they can't. It's not like commute time either because they need to watch it, so it's not like something they could just like throw it in the car or something.
Yeah, that's true. And then and then meanwhile, you get everybody internationally, so that throws it all over the map. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, but then I think back to some live streams I used to watch when I was doing some like online schooling, and they would do a nighttime broadcast. So you would actually schedule, it's like, hey, 9 o'clock at night, I'm going to go sit down, and everything's kind of relaxed, and you got your PJs on, you go and watch a live stream, and that was really fun too. So not saying that I want to do that, but it's something to keep in mind.
Chris is signing up for the 9 o'clock show.
He's got the 9 o'clock slot.
But we're playing around with some of these ideas, and we're excited to have that channel and excited to get some more stuff out to you guys. So much stuff happening, and we want to help. We get a lot of questions, and we want to do that. But hey, before we get started on the new or the main topic here, I'm pretty excited about this one. We have our very first sponsor of the Greyscalegorilla podcast. I wanted to tell you guys, it's none other than Maxon. It's the maker of Cinema 4D. We all know them. We all love them. They want us to let you know about, I know, it's exciting. They want us to let you know about their promotion that's happening right now in August. So if you guys are interested in getting a new license, or you're looking at a new Cinema 4D license, or upgrading your existing license, if you do it before August, you get R19 for free when it comes out, usually in September sometimes. But what this means is if you don't have a license right now, you can go buy a new one, start using 18 today, and as soon as R19 drops, they send it to you. It's in your email, and you're ready to rock. Now, we also wanted to do something special just for Greyscalegorilla podcast listeners, and so we added this. If you add the code GSG 2017 during checkout, you're going to get 10% off your entire purchase. So don't forget that as well. And we wanted to do, like I said, something special for the podcast listeners. We're also sending this out through the newsletter. Now, all these links, including the link to go get this discount, the link itself, I'll say it out loud, and then we'll also put it in the description. It's gsg.maxon3d.com. Now, if you go there, you're going to see everything that is eligible. Start shopping for your new license or update, and then when you get to the cart, don't forget to add GSG 2017 to save 10%. Now, don't forget this ends August 31st, and it's this is only good for North and South America right now, so keep that in mind. But all the details, if you're watching on YouTube, you could click down below, and if you're listening on the podcast as well, it'll be in the show notes. So huge thanks to Maxon for sponsoring the Greyscalegorilla podcast, and go get a license, will you?
Wow,
I'm excited.
Nice job.
Hey, all right, we did it. We're all grown up now.
We're legit. Yep,
it's a real podcast.
I also want to throw out there, it's something that we run into actually all the time. I'm always kind of blown away. In-house, we always use the newest version of Cinema 4D. Now, we're also on like the developer forum, and we have to test all of our plugins and make sure everything's always working. So we have to be all the way up to date. But like we're at NAB, we're at SIGGRAPH, and people come up and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm still in version 13. Or somebody who's like, oh, I was in version 12 and I just upgraded last year. So like now I'm on 17. Like, all of our tutorials, we're always using the newest version of Cinema 4D. Like, we always want to be talking about the coolest new features, all the fun new stuff. And it's just, I don't know, like, it's so weird for me to think about using like a 5-year-old version of the software. Like, if you haven't upgraded, you should be upgrading.
Yeah, I get sometimes you want to skip a year. I totally understand the financial side of that. But man, if you haven't seen some of the stuff they've added, especially in the last couple years, some of the features like takes, the fracture stuff from last year. You deserve to, go check out what's been happening for the last, 3-4 years at least, especially if it's been that long. People like Chad are moving to Cinema 4D because of the things that they've added in the last few years. Really, really high end stuff.
I only started looking at it, I think, in, what was that, 16 or 17, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was maybe 2 years ago. So yeah, so definitely check it out, and go see all the new stuff, will you? And then don't forget, Chris has his new tutorial all about the new fracture Voronoi stuff.
Fracture
so that's up on YouTube. Let's put that.
We're also rolling out the presentations too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we forgot that. Let's remind everybody there. Man, Cineversity knocked it out of the park this year. They it's only been like a week, and they're
less than a week. They're super fast.
Yeah, and they already have the first batch of CGraph presentations. So if you missed anything from C4D Live back during CGraph, they're starting to post that right now. So we'll put a link to that in a lot of show notes this week. It'd be good. All right. Well, let's hop into our main topic, which is kind of a combination of a bunch of different questions we get all the time, either through email, through Twitter, and I also feel like we get different versions of this question depending on where you are in your career. But it all essentially boils down to, how do I find better clients so that I could do better work? And there seems to be sometimes this kind of chicken egg situation, which is, do you need to find better clients to do better work, or do you need to do better work to find better clients? And what's the pathway from up your client level and also moving up your work level at the same time? And I think everybody is having some sort of version of this question, even if they're just getting started. They might not have access to some of the higher end clients. They're striving to do more of that work, all the way up to people that work in production, that own their own studios, that want to get these better clients in the door that give them better work. So I figured that could be a good way to kind of at least start a discussion on some of the things people could do to attract better clients, and also, how to get out and meet these people too. So it's kind of a big subject, but hey, we're not afraid to dive deep into this stuff. Just first thoughts from either of you guys about this topic.
You want to start this one off, Chad?
It's a big topic, man. There's a lot of facets to this topic, which I like.
We're going for 4 hours today. Let's just.
I mean, I've lived through this topic on a lot of different levels in my career. I think everybody kind of works at a place that, if you're working somewhere where you get up every day and you say, wow, this is like fantastic work that we do every day, and I love the work that we're doing, then you're really, really lucky. But you're a minority, because the majority of pay the bills type work at studios or even small independent shops is generally not the sexiest stuff in the world. So you want to do more of that, right? Like you want to get paid to do sexy work, and that's what everybody's chasing. That's what every studio is chasing that dream. A lot of different ways to do it, depending on your situation, where your studio is at, all these types of things. But I think the thing that I always say to everybody, no matter what level they're coming at this issue from, is something that we've talked about before on the show, which is you got to do the work that you want to be hired for. What does that mean? Do the work that I want to be hired for? Well, if you want to do visual effects, then your website has to have a lot of visual effects on it. It might not be client work. It might be completely made up work or spec work, whatever it is that you need to do to show people the work that you want to be doing or want to be known for. That's what you're going to have. Nobody's going to hand you, if you're making, Chris will love this, if you're making fidget spinner commercials and you really wish you were doing feature film VFX, do you really think fidget spin commercials on your website are going to get you that VFX job? Probably not. You're going to have to go on a limb, make your own stuff, make your own work that emulates what you wish you were bringing in.
Well, that would go all the way down the line too, wouldn't it, Chad? Like if you're just out of college, like you're going to likely get your first job based on your demo reel. And if you're a big giant studio, you're going to like land jobs based on your demo reel. People want more of that type of thing. Like, oh, look, they've proven themselves. I like that thing. I want my version of that thing. So you're not going to get, the other categories of work unless you're representing them.
No, you're absolutely right. It's like the same problem at a much different scale, but still the same problem. If you're right, you're getting out of school. I'm sure a lot of people will be telling you, "Oh, just show a very broad stroke of what you can do," and for some people that works. But if you really if you're wanting to be a rigger, or you want to just do look dev, or you're just a really strong designer and you want to focus on design, you're not doing yourself a service by throwing some random modeling stuff or 360s of some dragon model you made in a class. Like that's not going to help you. So figure out where you're going to make the biggest impact, where your strengths are, and try to play to that if you're just getting into the industry, and just make the reel that you want to be hired for. It's kind of like the other thing, like the job that you want to be hired for. Make the reel for the job you want. If you want to do animation, then you better have a ton of animation on that reel. What do you think, Nick?
No, I like that. I think it's important to remember that your demo reel or your website doesn't exist in a vacuum. Your site is potentially going up against everybody else. And you have to remember that. You have to remember the person on the other side isn't just going to go to your website and go yes or no. They're going to go to potentially dozens of websites and say, what person fits the job I'm trying to do, or what artist do I want to hire for this upcoming commercial? And you want to present the correct image and brand. I mean, listen, you guys are making TV commercials. You know how branding works, and you need to start to try to apply it to yourself in a way. If people are hungry, they don't go to JCPenney, right? Like it's just stick with me now. There's gonna be a lot of mall metaphors here, folks.
That has to be the most bizarre. Okay, I'm with you, dude. I'm going to stick with you on this.
It's going to be all mall metaphors. I'm full of them today. But think about the brand. Think about what your brand is if you are a brand, and what you're putting out to the world to tell other people what they're going to find when they walk in your door. And if your website is full of, animation and fun stuff, but you really want to do visual effects for like Marvel, well, you might be misaligned, even though your past work might be all fun stuff. You have to start to brand and make things that are getting the work that you've done. At least that's how I've seen it. That's how I see people get hired is it's not a chicken and egg situation. You have to prove to them that you can do that work before they're ever going to hire you to do it. So think about what your brand is. If you had a corner in the mall and you just paid your rent, what are you going to put on the sign, and what is your front window going to look like to pull those people in? Because that's how you get attention, and that's how you brand yourself and align it to where people are looking for artists. I don't know. I'm gonna work on this mall metaphor, but
I like where you're going with it. I'm picturing myself with a kiosk, and I'm flying mini drones around, and getting people to come up to my kiosk. I like that metaphor.
Right.
But really,
you gotta make people stop at your booth.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, people are simple. People are extremely simple. Clients are simple. Studios are simple. They have a need. Like they need to create something that looks like this, and they're going to go out and look for that. They're not going to be able to see 10 steps past your 360 of the dragon thing that I mentioned. They're not going to be able to look past that and say, oh, I bet if he did that, I bet he could do this or she could do this. They want to see apples to apples of what they're looking for and what you have. This goes all the way from agencies that are looking to hire studios to do actual marketing work, spots, whatever. They will, so they get a brief. Oh, we need, high-end sports graphic looking thing. Okay, well, I know the mill does that. I know X and Y. They know the studios, and that's what they'll do. They're not going to go give a chance to somebody who doesn't have any of that kind of work on their reel. That's way too risky for them. Studios looking to hire people kind of go through the same thing. The studios have their own style and their own look and their own feel. They're going to go out and probably look for people that are going to fit into that or expand it in some way. So know that. So if you're wanting to get a job, I'm not going to name a studio because I can't think of any right now, but if you want to get a job at this one studio and they're known for whatever kind of look, then you should probably have a lot of that sort of thing on your reel and be able to show proficiency in that particular style. Because people really are looking for that apples to apples. They can't see beyond that, and nor should they have to, really. If you're doing your job right and you built your store in your mall and it's funneling the right people into your store, then everybody's happy, the rent's paid. I'm thinking of other, you go to Orange Julius, buy yourself a nice drink.
Yeah. But even that, you're saying, the client tends to be pretty simple along those lines, and that probably even pushes through to, it's an experience I've had a little bit where, a client has an idea of what they want and they're looking at it, and they need to almost see a version of what they have to see something in your reel or in your work where it's like, ooh, that's what I want, but with this twist on it. So they can't, like you're saying, they're not going to look 10 steps down the road and be like, oh, if you took that and then combine it with this and this thing going over here, and then can you find this other thing? It's like, no, you already made something. I love it. Make my version of it.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Yeah, that really turning into that one-to-one translation.
Yeah, that's a dangerous thing too, because then if the client is like, well, we like what you did on that. Can you just do that for us? And you're like, well, I'm not in the business of just ripping myself off every 2 months. How about we take that and we expand on it, or we make it yours, and here's how we do that. Some clients are cool with that. Some literally want what you did or what they saw someone else do that's close to what you've done. And that's trickier. That becomes more of how do you corral your client into not doing derivative work?
Yeah. Well, you have more power then because they're already in your door.
Right. Yeah. Getting in the door is probably.
I think that's and that's why this discussion I think could be so varied, is because now you're talking about, now they are interested and they're in the door. I think that's a slightly different skill set than what we're maybe even describing, which is how do you get them attracted to you in the first place? How do you get them in? So, because let's assume once they're in, you have great work, that you can provide good value to them, that you could do your job well. We're just kind of assuming all that. So if you don't know all that, get better at what you're doing. But if you're out there, you're doing good work for clients, and you're like, man, I just want to start stepping up, and doing either more high end work, or maybe the ability to charge your client more, or to do different styles. It really is this rebrand of almost thinking of yourself as rebranding. Hey, I'm not doing these types of work anymore. And you could even start telling your existing clients this too. Hey, you've been helping me, and we've been working with you for a long time. I really appreciate it. Just so you know, we're looking to expand and get this kind of work. But I'll always try to help you out if you have something here. But just know I'm actually upping my rates, and in the next 6 months, and just kind of talk to your current clients and basically tell them about the rebrand as well. And I'm using this term rebrand kind of like it's a real thing. It's not. It's just it's deciding for yourself and for your business who you are going to serve tomorrow, and then getting the word out about it. It's a classic advertising problem. You're bumping into the same problem that all these other brands are bumping into every day, which is we have a new product out. Nobody really knows about it, and we're going to pay to make a commercial to get the word out. And you're really in the same position as somebody with a new widget to sell. How do you get the word out, and how do you brand yourself around so that people get a feeling about what you're offering before they even walk in the door? Is that clear? I mean, this whole
so simple. It sounds so easy.
It's so hard.
Why can't just do that?
This is the hardest thing.
But I was going to say, as a kind of jumping off of that, and Chad, you might have the most experience with this, but when you're in that kind of zone, how do you deal with those legacy clients? Like somebody will come back again and again and again for a decade, being like, "I want what you gave me last time, but for this year." And you're like, well, we've moved on from that. And I mean, I know I've just dealt with like legacy type things where it's like, and this project is never going to die, and it's eating up whatever, a quarter of your time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, those clients can be good and they can be bad. They can be good in that hopefully they're a regular source of revenue for the company, and you can depend on them to make payroll and all the other things associated with having a business. They can also be extremely stifling when it comes to creativity and hiring new talent, and your inability to show new work because you've been busting your ass on this reoccurring job that nobody wants to talk about. I lived that through a studio that I worked at that did a lot of work for Big Tobacco. And it was one of those things that you felt icky about doing, but it was great. It was actually really fun work and really creative work, challenging work, but you could never talk about it. You could never show anybody anything. So it became this golden handcuffs where you were tied to this work. You couldn't really staff up because you're not doing a lot beyond that work, and the work is great and it's paying the bills, but it's not necessarily letting you grow. If you're in that situation like I was, you're gonna reach a crossroads. You're gonna reach a fork in which you're gonna have to make a decision on what kind of studio do you want to be, what kind of artist do you want to be, and it's not an easy decision to make, but there are ways to do it in which you don't alienate that client and lose it and do new work. Number one, you're going to have to say, okay, we're going to have to hire some people to do this work that we're not really super stoked about. And that's either going to be freelance or maybe full-time. They're going to be dedicated to maintaining that client relationship, maintaining that work, keeping that going, making sure everybody's happy, keeping that money flowing in to hopefully fund what would be the future of your little studio or whatever. So that money keeps coming in the door, and now you've freed up some people's time to start experimenting, putting new kinds of work on the website, looking for new clients, that sort of thing. So there's ways to use those types of relationships to fund your future. You can't just turn off the faucet and then turn on this other faucet and expect there to not be any time when no water's coming out. That's not going to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Like this is why this topic's so interesting. Is there are so many ways to approach it. And I think the way that you described it makes sense. This slow growth is one of the best ways to do it. I think, people ask me too, when I started Greyscalegorilla, like, did you just go quit your job and go do this other thing? I was like, no, it was a slow side project that I slowly started getting the word out about I'm doing tutorials and I'm doing training and I'm trying to make plugins. And I also was working. I was also doing motion design. And I think if you think of it that way, in this entrepreneurial kind of way, I guess, or as if it were a business, even if you're working for somebody else, if you were a business, what are you doing to grow yourself? And what are you doing to broadcast what you want to do in the future? And if you assume that everybody knows what you want, you'll be really disappointed, because they got their own life they're worried about.
Yeah, that's so true.
Everyone's got their own, like everyone's worried they got boogers in their own nose. And what everyone else thinks is that they're getting stared at. And that's just never the case. It's up to you to get the word out about what you want and how you can help people. And the louder you could be about that, and the more clear you could be about that, the better. And I don't know if this is too much inside baseball, but we do this at Grayscale Gorilla all the time. We think about these things. Who are we trying to help? What part of the motion designer, like at what part of the level do we want to help them at? Well, we want to help new people. We also want to help people that have been in this. That's kind of what this podcast is talking more to people that are in their career a little bit further. And these are really difficult things to, man, they're really difficult to even talk about.
It's hard to navigate. I mean, do you remember when we were at Somersault together, and I think you left right when I took it over and I did a complete rebrand for that company?
Yep.
So that was a situation where I was at a studio that had history, not necessarily like internationally known, but local at least. And I had to rebrand it. And my only experience with that sort of branding was with a band that I was in. I had this like, I knew how to build buzz around a band. So I applied that same philosophy to the studio, and I rebranded the studio both in terms of their website, their look, their everything, their logo, everything. And I made sure that everybody that I hired was like a hype man for the studio. And so every event that anybody went to, I made sure they had stickers. I made sure they had something to put on something to like make people know that we were out there and we were doing our thing. And then I told everybody that worked there, I'm like, listen, everybody that goes to a party, everybody that goes to an event, a meetup, whatever it is, whenever they say, how's it going at, studio name here? The answer is always, we are killing it. We are so busy. Like we are just, we're trying to keep up right now. We're trying to keep our heads above water. And like, if you say that enough, now it sounds kind of like a little cheesy and a little salesman-y, a little slimy, but the truth is that becomes the reality. If you say something enough, it will become the reality. If you believe it enough, if you start saying to people, oh, we're doing this kind of work, we're just killing it, and you start to put that sort of work up on your website, whether or not it's, I think we did a spec spot for the shoe thing that we did, and Nick actually helped out with this. So when we were there, I was tired of doing end tags for cereal commercials, and I said, this is years ago. This is probably what, like 2000. Help me out, Nick. Was this 2005 or 6? We wanted to do something else. We wanted to do something more sexy, more fun. So we said, let's do a shoe spot. And this was back before the Man versus Machine like took over the shoe spot.
Dude, shoe things are freaking everywhere.
I know, right? So we were groundbreaking. So we did this whole shoe spot, and we did it ourselves. Everybody thought we were crazy, but we busted our ass on it. We had some really talented artists on it. And it blew up. Like it got posted on all the sites that were cool, and it got us on bids that we would have never got on. Like all of a sudden we were bidding against Blur and like all these other companies. We had no idea. We were just like, oh, cool. So you do something like that to get the work that you want to do, and all of a sudden you start doing that work. So after that spot happened, and we proved to the world that we could do that sort of thing, we started getting on these bids that we would have never gotten on before, because they could immediately see, okay, they've done this kind of work. This is the kind of job I have. This is what they're showing me. It's a fit. Like, let's get them on the bid. So it can happen. You just have to dedicate yourself to doing it. I think we took about a month of our spare time making that spot. And I mean, we didn't even do it in HD because we were just wanting to get it done. Like, I think we did it in like standard def, and like it's totally dating us now, but I thought it was fun and it turned out great. And to this day, I'm really proud of that piece.
Well, and maybe to tie some threads a little tighter, you knew that you and your team could do a spot like that. Yeah. You knew that you could do it because you've had the experience. It's in your head. And you've done it in the past, and you knew that you were capable of doing that work. What was missing from the market was the knowledge that the rest of the world knew that you could do that kind of work. And you were bridging that gap by making them a spec spot and putting it out and saying, we are capable of doing this work. Boom, there it is. And that is so often, and for me too, personally, is always the missing part of getting that next job or getting that next client. the ability to show them that you are capable of it is so much more powerful than explaining it. Like, oh, sure, we could do that. Because that is,
yeah, I mean, how do you
that's a lot of
sell
trust.
that? Yeah, exactly. And trust me, man, a lot of people with budgets and money and their careers on the line, they're not just going to trust you. They have to see it. They have to know that you can do it.
Yeah, that's tough. So, early on in your career, this happens too with schoolwork, with like, if you have too much, classroom projects on your reel, it stands out. People see that, and people see that you put more effort in and put non schoolwork on your reel, for example. That's a way to stand out. At every level, there's this idea that you need to present where you want to be and not where you somewhat where you actually are, but it's a little bit aspirational. You don't want to be too aspirational and say you could do it and not be able to, but you do want to put you want to put animator on your business card if that's what you want to do, and not say I could do everything. I know how to use I know how people would put like that they knew how to use director or something on their what am I saying, their
resume.
What's the piece of paper? Resume.
Jeez. You found J.C. Penney right away, but
listen, malls, I'm on it. Give me an Olga's, I'm good to go.
Yeah. With
Sorry.
the student work as well. Like, I think that is definitely something. And when you're in school, they're intentionally giving you like, here's one type of project, here's an unrelated type of project. They're trying to give you a little bit of everything so you can kind of figure out what you want to do. And it's to their advantage to have you do a whole bunch of different work. But you put all of that on your demo reel, and it's just a little bit of everything. Like, even if they've never seen another student from the school, so they don't know this is student work, it's going to be work from all over the place. Like, here's an unrelated assignment to this one. So that would just make it a big mess. But Chad, I wanted to maybe even ask, coming at this from a slightly different angle, doing better work for better clients. A struggle I hear a lot of people deal with is, and you brought it up a little bit with the cigarette work, but where there's a super sexy work that you really want to do, and it's fun. It's what you want to put in your demo reel, and it's, that's the one you're gonna be proud about, and you're gonna show your mom and dad. And then there's the usually unrelated to that, there is like the big money paying clients where it's boring, not sexy work, very, you don't want to show anybody, it's not going to go on your reel, but it's going to pay for the bills. And a lot of that stuff can turn into like pharmaceutical type work or anything medical, or like that kind of stuff is like, there's a market and it's working, you want to do it, but how would you think people should, or how have you struck the balance of that, of like, and also usually that work is easier too. And then you're going to spend the long nights, and everybody in studio is going to be sticking around and sleeping under the desk to get this piece done, to do like a movie title sequence or something. You're not making any money from that one, but everybody's pouring their heart and soul into that one.
Right.
So what do you think about that balance?
That's the old, there's a term that I've used, and I don't know who came up with it, but essentially you're either making a meal or you're making a reel. And the work falls into one of those two categories usually. So what you're describing to me is like, that work is all about making the meal, paying the bills, doing what you need to do. And you got to do that work. And that work is not necessarily hard to get, unless you're new to it, which then all work is relatively hard to get. But the situation that you're describing to me is you've got this like influx of not amazingly sexy work, but you want to be doing the work that everybody sleeps under their desk for. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Well,
where do you strike the balance? I mean, I'm sure there's a couple of magical unicorns out there where it's like a high paying job that you can't wait to work on, but those are probably few and far between.
Well, the balance, you're in charge of the balance. Like, everybody out there is in charge of the balance. It's just like, who's got the most hustle? Who's got the most willingness to make it happen? Because nobody's going to hand it to you. You're going to have, the balance is always serve the client that's paying the bills and give them the best product that you can. Now, you're going to have to basically squeeze in another thing, that work that you want to put on your reel. That time cannot come from your paying client. Otherwise, you're going to lose that paying client. So you got to hustle, man. You got to figure out ways. You got to hire other people to help you out with that other thing, or you got to work late. You got to work weekends. You have to do things. A perfect example, actually, I've been trying to figure out a way to work this into the topic, is a friend of mine, Michael Figge. He's actually a director and a co-owner of a studio called Possible. And he did something fantastic, which I think everybody would love to be able to do. They want to get more into storytelling and into more narrative filmmaking. And they predominantly are known for full visual packages for concerts and live events and just all kinds of television stuff, world tours. Fantastic company, but they want to tell more stories. And the type of work that they're doing wasn't allowing them to do that. So they said, you know what? We're going to take some time off of client work, and we're going to write the script, and we're going to produce this short film on our own dime, on our own time. And not everybody can do that, can just like turn off the faucet for a month and go make a short film. They planned this out. They've been working on it, figuring out ways to shuffle things around and really make it happen. And they're making it happen. And I got to say, like, I am like blown away by this company's, I don't know what the word is. I guess their commitment, I guess is the best word, to what they want to do. Because they are successful in the field that they're in, and their field that they're in is not, it's sexy stuff already, but they want to tell stories. So they said, you know what? We want to tell stories. The only way we're going to do it, nobody's going to believe us until we make it. So let's go make it. And that's what they did. And I wish a lot of other companies had that sort of commitment. It's a lot harder. I think a lot of other studios and even individuals have to keep that other faucet going. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of like, you got to have that hustle. You got to have that hustle.
It's a common theme, the balance of, okay, all I want to do is work in the industry. Okay, now I work in the industry and I got what I wanted, but I'm still not 100% happy because now I want better clients, right? There's this, and I guess what's always interesting to me is that struggle that never ends. The idea that you're going to find this perfect thing, or you're only going to have perfect clients, or you're only going to do, work that you love every minute of the day is something to strive for. But I think in a realistic way, a thing to always have in the back of your head, which is part of, like, what did you say? Part of this is for the meal, parts for the real.
Yeah. You're either making a meal or you're making a reel.
I think that, as I learn more about, business and talk to other owners and other studios, and I think that's just one of those things that is always a part of anything. Like even Bono has a boss, you know what I mean? Like, he's up there screaming about U2 and singing songs. He's still got to go like pay the bills for somebody. Right. And to think that it goes away completely, I think is misguided. Not that I think anybody's asking it that way, but I think it could be in the back of at least my head. I always thought like, okay, once I've got to this point, then everything will be fine after that. But that's just not how humans are. That's not how humans are at any level. You get to a level, you get to where your goals were. There's a new goal. There's a new thing to be. That little bit of like being 2% more happy every day. And it reminds me of a quick story. I was working at a place and we were doing some Walmart stuff. And, some of the team was complaining like, and where I was working, they did really good work. And they're like, listen, we do really good work here. And we're sitting here doing Walmart. I'm not doing it. Screw it. And I remember the owner came in and he was like, hey, it's so good to see you guys. Hey, who doesn't want to work on Walmart? And some of the team raised their hand and he's like, well, you guys could just leave.
That is the best story I've heard all day.
And they all go,
get the F out.
What? Yeah, they go, you could get the F out. And they're like, what? Because anybody that wants to work on all the nice stuff and all the things we win, awards for, those are funded by clients like this.
Bingo.
So do it. Go be sad about it. Go yell at each other about it. That's fine, but you got to go do it, or else you can't work here. Because this is what we do. We make commercials for people that want our want our work.
I think that's you touched on something big there. I think that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is that for every studio that's doing really killer work, there is at least 20 projects that suck that they never show. And that is just a reality. And those are the ones that pay the bills. Like, because, some corporate whatever company, they want the sexy company to work on their unsexy product, whatever spot, marketing campaign, whatever. They're going to go to that company, and that company is going to take their money. Absolutely. That's what's paying the bills. And oftentimes the sexy work doesn't really pay that well. There's a misconception that I think a lot of people new to the industry think that that certain successful studios that you see posted a lot on, that all they do is sexy work day in and day out. Let me burst that bubble for you right now. They all work on crap. They all do. None of them talk about it, but they do, because that's unfortunately the reality of the world. You got to.
Well, that even goes into, that's a big thing these days with like Facebook and Instagram. Like everybody's posting the highlights of their life. It's like, here's all these amazing things I've done and activities I've done and amazing things I have, and all the fun you're having. And then meanwhile, you're there watching other people's feeds being like, well, I'm at home, like vacuuming the living room, or I'm doing so you're seeing somebody else's highlight reel, but your day to day. And it's very important to like not confuse those two things. Like those other people have to vacuum as well.
I know. And when you're a freelancer or somebody that's looking to get into some studio, like I'm sure the people that were raising their hand in that meeting probably did not know that. So they went to this studio thinking, well, it's all must be this and that. Their award-winning work must be what they do day in and day out, right? Nobody told them that that's not the case, and that everybody's got to roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty on some Walmart once in a while. And if that sort of truth were a bit more publicized or talked about, I guess you'd probably have a lot fewer disgruntled employees. It's when you do have to have that balance, though, because even people that, if you were at that studio and that the owner came in and said that, and you're like, wow, they're right. I guess I got to pay my dues. I got to work on this stuff in order to get to work on that other stuff. Now, if you start to see the studio taking only Walmart and you're never getting to work on the fun stuff, then you got to start asking yourself, am I at the right place? Am I doing the right things? Because that's not good either. And I've seen that happen as well.
Oh yeah, you need a balance. The studio needs a balance. It's all balance, right? That's really, I guess, what we're talking about. It is balance, and how do you find it? And I think that the way you said it, Chris, about everyone's Instagram, nobody's posting their like mundane or sad parts of their day on Instagram necessarily. So for you to compare your like plain day to somebody said it like this: don't compare your off stage to other people's on stage. Because you'll always be disappointed. They're in many ways putting on a show, but that is what we're talking about. When these big companies or small companies don't put the stuff like Walmart necessarily on their reel, that is exactly what they're doing as well. They're trying to market to they're trying to get more of the big names, or they're at least putting out the idea that this is what we do all day. And that is working. That is why they do it, because they want the fun stuff. They want, or at least they want the fun stuff, but they also want, like you said, Chad, the product manager at boring company to go want to work at the fun place, right? That's why they brand it that way. And so maybe I'm getting off topic here, but I think we all kind of touched it at a different angle, and it's, as always, I'm trying to wrap it up into some ball, but this is a really tough one. This is a really tough one to wrap up. I think if anything, some of the themes I'm hearing from everybody is that it ultimately is up to you. Eventually you have to start to say yes or no to certain types of work to steer your career in the way that you want to. And that can take a long time. You have to pay your dues early on. You have to pay your dues all through each level. But for you to steer you ultimately have the power of what you say yes or no to, especially at a studio. And when you need the cash, you might not have as much power as you do at other times. But you know, you have to start to build that balance into things. And the other one is, you know, how are you marketing yourself? Do you have what's your logo like at the outside of your store? Are you attracting the right people? And if you're constantly getting people that don't have enough money that want kind of like crappy work, I would start to look at what you're advertising, because you might be able to shift who you're talking to and start to get a slightly different clientele. I don't know if that's definitely not a super wrap up to these things, but I think these discussions are always interesting and important at any level in your career. Any other last bits of wisdom here?
I'll leave you with this. You are in control of your own story. So you are in control of how people see you. You are in control of your own image. So just be aware of that.
I like that. Chris, what did any pithy statements like mine?
Yeah, well, I'm always concerned with the day-to-day. Like Chad's saying, you're in charge of your own image, but don't compare your day to even the image you're putting out there. Like you got to be kind of satisfied with the work that you're doing day to day. And if you're not, that's when you should go and start. I mean, you should always be pushing, but you should push harder and really go and try and find that type of work. And don't think that you have to be like all the time living your Instagram life, because that's not realistic. Nobody does that. Like you'd be miserable if you were doing that. So, you know, like it's important to kind of be, you know, happy with where you're at right now and satisfied with where you are right now and just continuing to try and grow.
I love it. Being human is about growing, folks. And that's what we're here to try to talk about, try to tackle here at the Greyscalegorilla podcast. Listen, you want more, sitting in front of a screen, hitting buttons? We got hours of that stuff. You could go watch that, start learning. But hopefully here we're trying to talk about some of the things that don't always come up during lunch topics, but are kind of buried in the back of every creative person's head here or there. So thanks for sticking with us for that one. That was a fun one. If you have a question or a topic you want us to talk about on the podcast, we're always looking at interesting things to discuss. Hit us up down in the comments if you're watching here on YouTube, or if you're listening on iTunes or some podcast player. Don't forget to check out the show notes and leave us a comment on iTunes as well. That's always a big help. But we're always looking at new topics and all that stuff. And unless there's anything else, we'll wrap this one up. Big thanks to our sponsor again, Maxon. Make sure you check that out in the links below. And we will see you in another Greyscalegorilla podcast really soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next time.